welcome back to the Show of Requirement Harry Potter podcast. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. I don't know when you're listening to this, but it is a late evening for myself, Spencer, joined by Cole and Abby. But hey, we got a great part of the book to cook through. We're just going to enjoy it together.
Oh yeah.
We're doing Order of the Phoenix. As if you're new to the podcast, I don't know where you've been because we've been doing Order of the Phoenix for 1.5 million years, give or take. Which is why next week we're just going to pile on to the end. I'm just going to do it all in one fell swoop. But we're doing chapters 25, The Beetle at Bay, through chapter 30, which I definitely remember what it's called. I don't want to say Seen and Unforeseen because that's one of the middle ones. Centaur and the Sneak. Dedications. There's a table of contents in here somewhere. Pause for dramatic effect. Grop. Which I'm about Grop too.
Yeah. Grop.
Which might be my favorite chapter title of this book. Now, I know, Cole, we don't normally talk about chapter titles in Harry Potter, but the one-word chapter title is just great. We got a lot of... Especially for this book, this is the best bunch of... we don't talk about this enough. Chapter titles. This is the best segment when it comes to chapter titles. But any thoughts before we begin? This is a great segment of the book. All the cool things happen.
Oh yeah. And it's so fun. There's
and
so
some
many
of the weird things happens and funny bits and chapter 25 specifically entirely left out of the movie. And it's a great chapter. Cole, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I have this weird problem in my brain. It's like dyslexia, except it's specifically for the word beetle, where I can't remember how the word beetle is spelled. And so every time I see beetle, I think it's supposed to be spelled like the Beatles or vice versa. I just flip-flop them. Saw the Beetle at Bay, and I'm like, why is it Beetle? I'm like, is it supposed to be Beetle? Or is that the British spelling? Is there a British spelling?
Is that the British spelling?
And then if it's the British spelling, then why isn't the British spelling the same as the Beatles? Who was that?
That
was me.
Cole.
I thought Cole was about to play the Beatles for us.
No.
Sad day.
Nope.
So this is the chapter, and listeners, you might not remember it by the chapter title. The chapter's called The Beetle at Bay. But this is the chapter where all the making out starts happening. But mainly it's the chapter where Harry has this really bad date with Cho. And David had thoughts, but he ain't here. So
he can stuff them.
Man, there's a lot to unpack here. Before we get into that, though, we have the mass breakout at Azkaban, which I kind of like the movie with Fudge going, there's only one person, Sirius Black.
Getting to see a little glimpse of Azkaban, even if it's
that was fun too.
That was nice.
I mean, Helena Bonham Carter is just might be the sleeper hit casting of this entire thing. Especially hearing Jim Dale's almost said Jim Henson. No, it's Jim Dale. Hearing Jim Dale's Bellatrix Lestrange, it just doesn't hit home the same when you've experienced the best. And I think that's one of the few characters where I could honestly say she has elevated the character. From the good guy perspective, though, it does feel like the ministry's clasping at straws, you know? But maybe to the public eye, to some of the public eye, it still makes sense because Black is still at large.
Right.
I'm kind of bugged by this, and I don't think I made a point to mention it before. Antonin Dolohov,
Mm-hmm.
convicted of the brutal murders of Gideon and Fabian Pruitt. Two things. First off, I'm pretty sure Moody said they took like a whole squadron of Death Eaters to bring him down. But one guy did it. Maybe he was the one convicted for it.
Oh.
The number 2 piece of it, and this is at J.K. Rowling for not making this clear and then making it clear later after the fact. Maybe I would call this a retcon, very small one, but Gideon and Fabian are Molly's brothers.
Interesting.
That is like in universe. You can look it up.
Seriously? Wow.
Yeah. She's Molly Pruitt before she married Arthur.
You are correct.
Never mentioned. You'd think that Molly would have brought it up. Or at least that it would come up because they have connections to the Order. Not that Molly was in the Order necessarily. Her and Arthur decided to protect their kids. But it's just like
fair.
It feels like an afterthought if it wasn't an afterthought. What's the best Death Eater name?
Oh gosh.
Because they all have these illustrious names that just sound like bad guys.
I don't know. I mean, Dolohov is a good one.
I think Augustus Rookwood is also good. That one's straight out of Hogwarts Legacy is what that is.
That's true.
That's on you. That's you, Spencer. I think
I know.
Your studio's haunted.
We're going to pretend that's fireworks and not the possibility of other things.
That was loud.
It was. Living in the ghetto. It's fine. But yeah. Also, goodness, I forgot about Bode. The guy they saw in the hospital, St. Mungo's.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then he's suspiciously murdered. I was like, what?
By Devil's Snare.
By Devil's Snare, which is something we know. But he's all crazy because of the Imperious Curse from Lucius Malfoy, which Lucius is just a great Death Eater name.
But also so is Bellatrix.
Yeah, but it's like Bellatrix is the top, so everything else just has to...
No, yeah.
Is second to Bellatrix, yeah. I would also say, not that I have a favorite Death Eater, it's kind of Snape, but that feels like a bad answer. I mean, he's both, right? But I think Bellatrix is probably up there as well.
Why did I forget? What's the guy who's also, is he a werewolf too?
Greyback.
Yeah, Greyback. Yeah.
He's scary. I wouldn't even call him a Death Eater when you're talking about the book.
Yeah.
Strictly speaking, but the movies, they kind of loop him in with them, which is fair.
That's true.
Also, Greyback is the same werewolf that bit Lupin. So he's not young by any means. R.I.P. R.I.P. to the actor that played him also.
Yeah.
I will say that I still to this day feel like I experienced a little trauma whenever I saw the Deathly Hallows Part 2 movie and he like had killed Lavender Brown and you just see like her dead face. It was just really sad. Do you remember that?
I forgot that Lavender died.
I remember it.
She never knew love.
Well,
only heartache. Only disappointment from one. That's a topic for another day. Also, Greyback is not really in this book at all, but he comes into play in Half-Blood Prince.
True.
As if they didn't need more things going on in that book, on the bad guys' end of things.
This is what the bad guys are doing.
Just Ron being a great representative of the wizarding world, telling us things. So in the movies, it would have been Hermione that had this line if they had included it. When they're talking about Bode, he goes, "I've heard Dad talk about him. He was an unspeakable. He worked in the Department of Mysteries." Listen, the exposition can fall on more than one character, Steve Cloves. I said it once.
Trying to think. This chapter, I'm kind of like,
I'm just trying to. I think I'm just moving forward to where I'm trying to find where they're always suspecting Snape. The date. So I did text you guys when I was reading this chapter. I was like, "Is Madame Puddifoot's in Hogwarts Legacy?" And Cole answered, "The tea shop."
Yes.
Yes. Follow-up question then, which I've been saving for this podcast. Is it the same Madame Puddifoot? Because that would mean she's like 200 years old. Or I was like, or because it says that they're in Madame Puddifoot's tea shop, right? So naturally, but then it could just be a name. But the person serving them is also Madame Puddifoot. And so I'm like,
be a family shop.
I was gonna say it must be a married name, because if Madame Puddifoot has a Madame Puddifoot, then it would be a maiden name, which doesn't work. And then I'm just saying you can't pass down a maiden name like that. I mean, you can, but it's not assumed that you would. It's stupid.
No, the Trolley Witch has been the Trolley Witch for a long time. So maybe.
But the Trolley
Madame
Witch is
Puddifoot.
like a vampire or something.
What do we know about Madame Puddifoot?
She's another one.
Maybe.
Cole, do you not remember? You probably. I don't actually expect you to remember this. I don't even know why I started the sentence that way. Cursed Child.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fine.
Don't complain. That was the best part of Cursed Child. Was where they reveal that's the same Trolley Witch, but she's like this. I don't even know, wraith or something.
Dislike.
Well, how can you explain? Where's the Trolley Witch go during the school year? What does she do outside of school? Does she just run the Hogwarts Express 2 times a year? Follow-up question. They never truly establish how students travel home at Christmas. Except the movies do in Half-Blood Prince.
Interesting.
I just thought...
They use the Flu Network.
But why do they use the Flu Network if they can... Or why would they use the train if they can use the Flu Network?
I don't know.
Fun.
Well, in this one, they use a portkey. They don't really explain because Harry doesn't go home the other Christmases. So I guess the other students take the train.
Sorry, guys. Cranjus is being bad tonight. Lots of pillow whacking. I brought in my tree because it's getting cold, and now he wants to eat it. After he destroyed a Funko Pop box today, that was a little more on the expensive side.
No.
It was Brock and Sindri. Rip. Anyway, sorry, off topic.
The reference, I understand. Who is in the right and who's in the wrong on this date?
I don't know. I think they're both a little.
That's what I was going to say. Harry can't take a hint, but Cho is really bad at giving hints.
Yes.
Yes.
And once Harry...
I think they both contributed to the misunderstanding.
And once Harry figures it out, he makes it worse. by the way he expressed his realization. I think it's just David will throw a hissy fit next week. He would throw a hissy fit if he was here, but I think it's a great expression of first crushes, and like when it actually you actually talk to them, you don't actually feel like you actually don't have anything in common with them, and then it doesn't work out. Like that's like a classic scenario that happens to a lot of people. It happened to me. And so I think J.K. Rowling has done a really good job at writing this out to where like Harry's been thinking about Cho for almost years. I would say years. Yeah. 2 years probably. And now that he finally is talking to her, it's like, oh, I didn't think I would get this far, or isn't prepared to do it. It's like a dog chasing a car. Like he doesn't know what he'd do when he caught it.
Right.
Is that a Batman
Or wasn't
reference?
expecting to it. It's actually a John Mark McMillan reference.
Oh,
but it's
fine.
also I did think about Batman as I was making the reference as well. So it's both. But shocker, Harry doesn't want to talk about Cedric, foreshadowing for the rest of this chapter. And then I just want to note it because it's a very good part is when Hermione's talking to Harry later. Oh, that's not this part. We have Rita Skeeter come back. Anything to know about that? I think it's just cool to kind of give us some kind of finisher to, hey, Hermione put a grown woman in a jar at the end of the last book. Maybe we should learn what happened about that. Is she still in the jar? Questions like that. She's not still in the jar. Thankfully, that's confirmed. Oh, where is it? I guess it's in the next chapter. But I like the conversation Harry has with Hermione, or Hermione has with Harry, about how he messed it up.
Yeah, well, I think Hermione's able. That's the thing about like young crushes too. The guys, well, let's be honest. Throughout the history of time, men and women have continued to misunderstand each other.
Amen.
But I think that especially teenagers, aren't good at picking up each other's cues, especially between guys and girls. And so Hermione, her two best friends are boys, and she was looking at them both like, "Are you kidding? Do you not see what you did?" Especially with Harry, I think she's able to help bring some perspective that he's not able to think about with his teenage boy brain.
Cole's really enjoying this conversation.
I am.
We're going to keep it going just a little bit longer. I just like that Hermione, it's just a very good moment of her character to kind of show how she responds to all this. Like, I'm sorry you were a bit tactless. And then Harry says, how was I supposed to feel about that? Well, you see, said Hermione, with the patient air of one explaining that 1 + 1 = 2 to an over-emotional toddler. Such a great simile. It's perfect, and JK always pulls these out of nowhere, and I always really enjoy them. And so Hermione is one of those characters that I feel like, I don't know how. I feel like I know Hermione so much better just because of things like this. But she explains this, like, you should have said it was really annoying, but I made you promise to come along to the 3 broomsticks, and you really didn't want to go. You'd much rather spend the whole day with her, but unfortunately you thought that you really ought to meet me. Would you please come along with you, and hopefully you'd be able to get away more quickly. And it might have been a good idea to mention how ugly you think I am too, Hermione added as an afterthought. But I don't think you're ugly, said Harry, bemused. Hermione laughed. Harry, you're worse than Ron. ... Well, no, you're not. That is also, just a reference to another episode we've done, that is also the only time in 7 books that Harry expresses anything about Hermione's looks.
Yep. And it's
But
just
I
that
don't
he
think
doesn't think she's ugly.
he doesn't think she's ugly,
And
which
that's
is
as far as
not
it
even, I don't even think I could call that a compliment.
goes.
It's just not an insult.
Right.
Just want to throw that out there. You know, it's David Yates' fault. We all love Nick Cave. But you know,
I have to like Harry's. Well, wouldn't it have been easier if she just asked me whether I liked her better than you? Girls don't often ask questions like that, said Hermione. Well, they should, said Harry forcefully.
Well, they should. In Gandalf's voice.
Right.
I just feel like in this
Oh my
podcast
gosh,
is
you should
not
write a book.
Washington
Ron said to Hermione.
Centennial. This is not an Emma Watson spam podcast. I don't know why you thought it was. I doubt he's listened to a single episode, as a matter of fact.
Probably not.
Anyway, it's an old reference. We got a bad review from somebody that said that. But I do think Emma Watson did a perfect job at building out this character. And so it's scenes like this that I kind of wish we had gotten, but I understand why they were on the cutting room floor.
I still would have liked the deleted scene.
That would have been nice.
But it's fine.
Or extended editions.
Right?
I was in a Facebook group where they were talking about extended editions, and they were like, there are extended editions. They're on Max. And I'm like, that's a lie. They're just the regular editions. Chapter titles, Seen and Unforeseen, nice and vague.
Let's see. What else happens in this chapter? I'll be honest. When I say I read them all today, I read chapters 28 through 30 today. The other ones I read earlier, and I've kind of forgotten.
Angelina's a bad Quidditch captain. David's, well, not just David, but the book has sold me on that one. I like Fred and George get a lot more speaking lines in this one. And I just really like the phrase, take the Mickey out of him.
Right.
That's just, I've never used that phrase. I hope I never will, but
this is off topic, but I just read it and got confused. And then I'm like, this is another just weird scene that I think would have just been funny for us, especially knowing the actors that they had. But Harry had a dream that Neville and Professor Sprout were waltzing around the room of requirement while Professor McGonagall played the bagpipes. And I would have loved to see that.
Yes.
Because I think that would have been so funny.
It's also just nice having him have a dream that's not about this hallway. For once.
Right. I mean, it's still transitioned into the hallway, but you know.
I also wanted to note, it's just this. It's a little bit of comeuppance before it gets really bad with Umbridge, but she's trying to figure out what's going on with the Quibbler. And Harry decides that he just can't. It's not worth lying because she's gonna see it anyway. And he's like, people have written to me because they gave an interview about what happened to me last June. And then he says, I mean, a reporter asked me questions and I answered them, said Harry. Here. And he threw the copy of the Quibbler at her. She caught it and stared down at the cover. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have thrown it at her.
No.
But, you know. But I love Hermione going, oh, Harry, don't you see? If she could have done one thing to make absolutely sure that every single person in the school would read your interview, it was banning it. And just how, and all of the stuff is talking about how the kids are keeping it. They're like they're always one step ahead of all of the inquisitorial squad and everything. But we get this whole scene with Rookwood that The only thing I really wanted to note about it is that Harry thinks he's talking to Rookwood, but it's
Mm-hmm.
actually Voldemort. And until basically halfway through, he says, "You have Lord Voldemort's gratitude." And so it's also wild that Voldemort wanted it so bad that he broke Rookwood out of prison for it.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have occlumency going on. Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah, sorry. I know for our listeners, they're probably like, what are they doing? We're all rereading, like skimming the chapter to see what we're missing.
Yeah, we're all looking around. I'm just trying to make sure. This is what I wanted to talk about before we move to chapter 27. Is Trelawney leaving? I think the movie does this scene perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do
I
too.
agree.
I 100% agree.
But it's one of those things where I'm like, Trelawney probably should have left.
Yes.
But I feel like Dumbledore didn't want her revealing the prophecy to Voldemort.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I'm going to keep her on staff to teach this useless subject forever. It's just such a wild thing. But yeah, perfect.
And I also love that Dumbledore was like, sure, you can fire Trelawney, but guess who I brought in to replace her? Another half-breed.
Yeah, this is Ferenz. I think you'll find him suitable.
Yeah.
It's a real Dumbledore move, and he doesn't get too many of those in this book.
No.
But poor Ferenz, man.
Man, he really has a rough go of it, just for helping out.
Well, and Hagrid got beat up for saving Ferenz from his group, his tribe.
Yeah.
But I love that they're learning about in his classroom, and this is moving on to the Centaur and the Sneak. They start talking all about. Oh, Dean! I forgot. Dean asked if Hagrid breeds them, which is so bad. So bad. But
like,
I love
they're basically people. They're people.
Barty starts going through all of the things that Trelawney told them about astrology, and then that, said Ferenz calmly, is human nonsense. You just like, kapow, bomb drop. And he tries to teach them, but it's like, it's a bit like talking about, like, it cracks me up that he like openly admits that they never really understand the subject.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also more, I guess, not realistic, but more, I guess more realistic of how many of them are actually going to be able to do predicting the future with magic. Like, clearly centaurs are the best at it, and it takes them hundreds of years to notice barely anything. And it's usually very unspecific. Like, all I can say is that he can tell that, and he does note that Mars is like in a certain position, and so that it's bringing toward a new war, which of course Harry's like, duh.
Maybe we knew that.
I missed Dobby in the movie.
Me too.
He's a big part of it.
Been fun.
But he's trying to put. He actually is the one that saves them from Umbridge. In fact, he actually saves them, while in the movie they just all go to detention and cut their hands open.
I was also going to say that I did really enjoy. I think the movie did the Patronus scene well too. I thought that was really fun.
Oh, yeah,
but I also
100%.
get Harry's impatience, and I feel like this is how I would be too. You know, they're all doing their Patronuses. You're learning what yours is. And Cho's like, oh, don't be such a killjoy. They're so pretty. And Harry says, they're not supposed to be pretty. They're supposed to protect you. I'd be like, that would be me. I'd be like, look at them all. But honestly, I think the movie did a good job of showing Harry being a teacher and kind of a leader for these other students too.
I think it's wild, and maybe it's just Lupin's teaching style that he just threw Harry in front of a Dementor and made him do it.
Yeah.
It's such a not. That's
Wild.
not how to teach. Like, you need to create a safe space and learning environment. And so, in some ways, I agree, Abby. I think Harry's right, but in other ways, I'm like, no, Harry's doing it the exactly precise way. He is showing them how to do it in a safe environment, getting them to produce it. Corporal patronuses, which is unheard of anyway,
Right.
because he's doing it in a safe environment first, in a place where they're comfortable and away from Umbridge, and there's no pressure and stuff. But then
They
he's
can think
also
of happy thoughts and
yes,
memories.
and then he's giving them like advice and real and kind of tempering expectations for the real world at the same time. I
do miss Dobby. You're right.
But we'll have to note if we read forward. I don't know if anyone but Harry uses a Patronus charm after this.
Yeah.
Not that they don't, but like specifically ones that we read about. I know Harry sends one in the Ministry of Magic, but that might just been the movie.
In the movie, I remember that Aberforth does one.
Oh, yes.
It's a go!
Yep.
And Umbridge does, too.
It's a cat!
Yeah, she does.
That's what she said. But we get the whole thing with Dobby like punishing himself and trying to get the words out, and Harry finally figures it all out. And Harry turns to everyone and goes, "What are you waiting for? Run!" But frickin' Malfoy.
The worst. Honestly.
The worst. I'm honestly so sick of Malfoy. I think I could scream. He's like the most annoying character. I don't know why anyone likes him. I don't know anyone can read these books and go, I just love Draco. I love Tom Felton. Like, he's the worst.
Okay, but you can love Tom Felton, but still not like Draco.
Yes, but they are exclusive of each other. They should be.
He played a great Draco.
Oh,
he really made that character terrible. He did a great job. Anyways.
I think it's later in this, but yeah, just real difficult stuff. I love Dumbledore trying to talk his way out of this whole thing, but he's like, there's no Harry realizes like the jig is up, and Kingsley does an Imperious Curse. Just the best. Really good stuff. But then Dumbledore finally is like, but it says Dumbledore's army. And the movie does well. But I like the book as well. In fact, I think the book is better just because it's a little bit longer. But the movie does use, like, it doesn't do anything that breaks the plot, because the Phoenix can teleport in and out of Hogwarts. And so it still works out. But I love how it ends. And I think it is the last line of the chapter. Phineas Nigellus' voice, which of course now we like have a voice for Phineas. Like, we know what he sounds like because of Hogwarts Legacy. You know, Minister, I disagree with Dumbledore on many counts, but you cannot deny he's got style. And I'm glad they gave Kingsley the line. Kingsley's great. He should always get more play.
Yeah. Dumbledore.
Because he's one of the best. Like, he probably only had like 10 minutes of lines and stuff, but Kingsley's is definitely one of my favorite Order members. And I think the character that played him is amazing too. But because he goes, Dumbledore's got style. You can't deny.
You can't deny.
Might be one of the worst pictures for Snape's worst memory, chapter 28. This might be one of the worst pictures.
Yeah.
I'm falling in to the pensieve.
Honestly, I'm I'm like, it's about time that Harry learned about his dad not being the greatest teenager in the world. Because I will agree that I think Harry idolized his parents, not really knowing them super well, and I think that fair, like they did grow into being kind of deserving of that, but I think it also reminds him that they weren't perfect people.
Yeah.
And that's why Snape struggles a lot too with Harry. Harry always thought it was undeserved, which for Harry it is kind of undeserved. Like Harry didn't do anything to Snape. Snape just started treating him badly. But I think he understands a little bit more why and can sympathize with Severus a little more.
David would be sad that I'm mentioning this now, but I think it's a big piece of your life to realize your parents aren't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I will not say what mine was on the air, but it's just a funny story. But I was watching, there was a whole Frasier episode about it. And like, I don't remember who the original person's reason was, but it was like fine and good and everything. But Frasier was trying to explain to his father what his was, and it was just that when he tipped, he couldn't do the math in his head. And so then the rest of the episode, Martin just kept making cracks about how he was too stupid to do whatever it was that they were doing. And Frasier's like, oh, Dad, oh. Typical Frasier stuff. Just intellectual or rich. It's a great show. I haven't watched the new show yet. Don't ask me because I haven't seen it. Ernie Macmillan revealing that Umbridge has not been recognized as the headmaster by the castle itself,
which I think is amazing.
The castle is a character.
Yes.
The paintings and the ghosts, like they're all part of the castle and the story. I don't understand how that magic works. I don't think Dumbledore gets to decide that. Otherwise, there would have been problems from previous headmasters. Not jealous. But I get, just in case you didn't hate Malfoy enough in this book, he reveals that he can take away school points now.
The worst.
And of course, Jim Dale did a great job, but I was just fuming. The Inquisitorial Squad, Granger. So Granger, I'll have 5 points from you for being rude about our new headmistress. Macmillan, 5 for contradicting me. 5 because I don't like you, Potter. Weasley, your shirt's untucked. I'll have another 5 for that. Oh, yeah, I forgot. You're a mudblood Granger, so 10 for that. This is why students can't be in charge of house points.
Exactly.
But why would Umbridge make anything fair, honestly?
Or make a wise decision. And I love how Umbridge is a Slytherin, and you never learn directly that, but it's seen. She makes choices in benefit of Slytherin at every interval that she can.
Ambition and cunning.
I thought it was revealed in the last book.
In the last book? Umbridge? I don't think she's in the last book at all.
Yeah, she is.
I don't remember her being in the last book at all.
When they go to the Ministry of Magic?
Which is at the beginning of this book.
No. When they use the Polyjuice potion.
Patronus. Her Patronus. To keep the Dementors up.
That's in Deathly Hallows.
That's the last book.
The last book.
Oh, I thought...
It's okay.
No, I thought you meant the previous book. Not the last book.
The final book.
Cole,
Thank you.
We're on the same page.
I thought Abby was on my page, and then she wasn't, and I was like, "What am I doing?" I was like, "What am I doing wrong?"
It's okay.
Okay, I still don't think she reveals that she was Slytherin because she
maybe
was
not.
saying like,
I would say
"Oh,
I don't know the answer
it's
to that one.
Sybil, which was my grandmother's name." Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about that, though, since we're on that train, is that she has a Horcrux around her neck, but she's already so evil that it doesn't change anything.
Didn't really do anything. Yeah.
Didn't really change anything.
They're like, we'll just leave her.
Fred and George go on a rampage, though.
Oh my
and
gosh.
It's really good
I've
stuff.
Never loved them more.
Montague tried to get us during break. What do you mean tried? He never managed to get all the words out due to the fact we forced him headfirst into that vanishing cabinet on the first floor. Terrible, really funny moment. Terrible consequences for Half-Blood Prince. It set all of Half-Blood, all of Draco Malfoy's plan into motion. But still was hilarious. And the Fred and George just doing the back and forth lines. I love that's something that they brought to the movies. Well, now, said George. What with Dumbledore gone, said Fred. We reckon a bit of mayhem, said George. Is exactly what our dear new head deserves, said Fred. They just bounce off. Really, really good stuff.
Next bit, Umbridge
Is this the
get... Huh?
Is this the same chapter where they do the fireworks?
Yes.
Magnificent.
It is. But this next bit, Umbridge tries to give Harry potion to get him to tell all of the secrets.
Veritaserum, which, she could have just said, did you see Voldemort come back? Yes. But I'm glad Harry had his wits about him to not drink the tea.
Yeah, well, I like that he said...
Pun unintended.
It just occurred to Harry what Mad-Eye would say if he had ever heard that Harry had drunk anything offered by a known enemy.
A known enemy.
Yeah.
Very good.
He denies everything, and then boom, the fireworks. I liked the movie version of this better.
Well, the movie had to do like 3 weeks of school in one go. But yes.
I like that they did it during the Owls.
Yeah. I mean, they had to bring it all down so much, but it is fun to have Harry seeing all this happen, and then he dives in this little tunnel entranceway where Fred and George are just crying, laughing. I hope she tries vanishing them next. They multiply by 10 every time you try.
Don't send them, Filch, shouted Umbridge. Right you are, headmistress, wheezed Filch, who, as a squib, could no more have stunned the fireworks than swallowed them. Does she not remember, or does she not know that he can't do magic? I don't know.
Yes, either one. Doesn't matter. I think my favorite prank they do in this, though, is the pond.
Yeah.
The swamp. Like they'd sell that, but it is a good... I love that Flitwick ropes off a little bit because he was such an impressive bit of magic.
I love that one of the escaped firecrackers, Harry went to bed an hour later, and as he got undressed, a sparkler floated past the tower, still resolutely spelling out the word poo. Boys, they have to do the poo jokes. There's always a reference. I think that's funny too.
It's good. Still good. Still funny.
Yep.
10 out of 10. Do recommend. All the poo jokes are welcome with me. But now we're getting actually into Snape's worst memory.
Yes.
I don't see any problems with the movie version. Harry is definitely breaking more rules by invading his memories via the pensieve.
Yeah. Then it made it feel like an accident in the movie. Well, kind of accident. Yeah.
It was very short, snappy. Mm-hmm. While you get like a full kind of scene of the Marauders, which they're not in a good light.
No.
but
even
also
Lupin, who didn't
it's the
do
only time
anything.
we've experienced anything Marauders.
Yes.
Like everyone, and I think it's true, they're all just, the Potterhead world is proclaiming we want this, but like a book series or movies or something.
Nobody's doing anything.
Just give it to me. Just give it to me.
Yep.
Even Lupin's funny too, though. Like, I think I loved it. Give 5 signs that identify the werewolf. Excellent question. Do you think you managed to get all the signs? Said James in tones of mock concern. Think I did, said Lupin seriously. 1, he's sitting in my chair. 2, he's wearing my clothes. 3, his name's Remus Lupin. Just really good stuff. Snivelous. Yeah, he's just James is the worst. Like, he's so mean.
Yeah. Well, and even out of all of them, like, Lupin's not doing anything, but by not doing anything, he's still not helping. You know, still contributing to the mayhem of James and Sirius.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, chapter 29, career advice. McGonagall says the iconic, I will help you become a Auror if it's the last thing I do, which is not really about Harry. It's just it's just about her and Umbridge and them having shouting matches all the time.
Well, how would you feel if you got interrupted by a little squeaky cough every 2 minutes?
Well, she is the do you need a cough drop? My goodness gracious. Are you sure you don't need a cough drop?
Are you sure you do not need a cough drop, ma'am?
Yes. Where is it? She says, "Oh, I have not recommended him for Defense Against the Dark Arts." She goes, "Let me clarify my point. He has done extremely well in every Defense Against the Dark Arts class done by a competent teacher."
Uh-huh. Wow. And that just shut her up, and she was just writing, you know.
Goodness gracious. So good. And then Umbridge says there may well be a new Minister of Magic by the time Potter is ready to join. Ha ha! It's like, come on, Dolores. You haven't figured this out yet?
And then she's like, you think you'll be where I am, don't you? Senior Undersecretary to the Minister and Headmistress to boot.
You are raving.
You're raving.
I actually really enjoy the conversation that Harry has with Sirius. Not even because of Sirius, actually because of Lupin.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a wonderful moment. And I think Lupin's my favorite Marauder. He really is.
Yes. Lupin's the best.
He's the sensible one. I really wish he hadn't died, but at the same time, we haven't gotten any content after. So I guess it's fine with me. But he's the sensible one. I really loved him. That's why in the Marauder series we did, I gave him more play. I also kind of wrote him out in the last one to be as like the survivor, because that's what he kind of is for most of this, for a long time at least, until Sirius proves his innocence. Hi, Cranches. But I love how they kind of talk about, they kind of bounce off each other, and Sirius says he's not proud of it. And Lupin's like, everyone thought they were the height of cool. If they did sometimes get a bit carried away. If we were sometimes arrogant little Burks, you mean, said Sirius. Lupin smiled. And so they're kind of having like just a moment together. And it's sad that we didn't really get to see that.
Well, I even love he kept messing up his hair. Oh, I'd forgotten he used to do that. Was he playing with the snitch? Yeah, said Harry. Well, I thought he was a bit of an idiot. Of course he was a bit of an idiot, said Sirius. We're all idiots. Well, not Mooney so much.
Just so sweet. But yes,
It's a
I
really
think
sweet
Abby, I think you're right. I think the Fred and George escape in the movies is better because it has the
Dragon
fireworks,
fireworks.
the
thing.
dragon fireworks going along with it. Very Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
actually. But
And
I
I
do
think
love
out of
the
all the times that they could have chosen to do it, doing it during like the equivalent of
owls,
our like state testing, or like our AP test,
ACT,
like
yeah,
ACTs, it's like the worst timing in the world,
or the
you
best
know.
timing in the world.
Oh, well, yes.
Yes.
I just like noting the "Give her hell" from us, Peeves, and Peeves does a mock salute.
So good.
Which
Best
brings us
chapter
into
title,
chapter
in
30.
your opinion?
It's
Grop.
just, I just like that it's short.
Yep.
I don't know
To the
what
point.
grop, and when you're first reading it, you're like,
You have no idea. What is
no
that?
clue.
Made up
I don't
word.
really have too much to note. I'm a little bugged that everybody could do bubblehead charms now.
Mm.
It was such a hard bit of magic for seventh years in the last book, but now everybody can do them. No
Mm-hmm.
big deal. But really, just everybody's being a real pain in the butt to Umbridge, which is rightfully so. I actually think I like the movie's development of the Giants better because Grop is just not a big, gross, gray blob. But DC would love this book's description of giants. Basically, the book just describes them as like elephants
Yeah.
in the shape of people, and that just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't fit right. Yeah.
It doesn't fit right. It doesn't feel right.
No.
And so I think I really enjoyed the movies. They're like, yeah, he's a person, but there's something different. I mean, other than size, he's a little different in looks as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think actually I haven't looked at it. I don't have the illustrated edition of this, but I think the illustrated edition actually took notes kind of from the movies. And so I don't know. It's always food for thought with this series. It's like if we're going to get a really loyal adaptation in this series, that may or may not happen. There's some things that I would love them to kind of leave out.
Right.
I love the Weasley song has changed.
Oh, it's so good. I love that the Gryffindors just took it and switched it around.
Yep. He didn't let the quaffle in. That's what I always say. Yeah. I'm not mad about what movies did either, but leaving out Quidditch for the entire fifth book movie, kind of silly. Like, I feel like they didn't have to show all of these games towards the end of the book, but showing Harry and them getting a lifelong ban, I think would have been helpful.
Yes.
For just the hardcore fans that want to be appeased, but B, because people are going to be like, where's Quidditch? There's no Quidditch in the entire movie. And then they can kind of just write off the rest of Quidditch for the school year. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, because I like the way that they presented Half-Blood Prince Quidditch in the movies. Minus, I like this victory. I like them finding out that they won the game in the cup. But I like Harry coming back from detention to finding out that Gryffindor won the Quidditch Cup without him. Or at least they won the game or whatever it was, and then he kisses Ginny. It's just a very fun scene and a very cool presentation. Gosh, I want to talk about it, but it's next week and we're out of time anyway. Chapter 31 is nuts.
Yeah, it is.
Everything from the astronomy tower. I'm like, I forgot that happened.
Yep.
That's not.
I'm not meant to. Get there.
Yeah, listeners, I'm not trying to throw you ahead of next week. What's the best chapter out of this segment?
You sound like a Minecraft villager.
I'm gonna go with the centaur and the sneak.
Yeah.
Because it starts with Ferenz becoming a teacher, which is always fun. That's bound for hijinks, you know. And then Patronus says, and then Dumbledore makes his grand escape.
I feel like mine would either have to be Snape's worst memory or career's advice.
Gosh, you might have a good point there with Snape's worst memory, though.
Yeah, Snape's worst memory is really good.
Cole?
I don't know, because there's a lot of great parts in this.
I have to pick one.
I have to pick one? I do really like Snape's
I'll accept a tie if that's what it must come to.
I like Snape's worst nightmare, kind of like, or worst memory. Snape's worst nightmare. I do like Snape's worst memory.
Snape's worst nightmare is the entire
reality.
I was gonna say reality.
Reality.
Oh no!
What my brain did, Cole, was I was like, well, Snape's worst nightmare would be like the Gryffindor winning the House Cup, or Gryffindor winning the Quidditch Cup. Well,
or Lily not choosing him.
Honestly, I think one of Snape's worst nightmares, and this is a pro to Snape, is Voldemort coming back. I think he clearly he did a lot of work to help, fight evil. And so the fact that Voldemort did come back, he knew what Dumbledore was going to ask of him, and he wasn't going to say no to that. And so it's the human side of him. He's still a turd most of the time. But yeah, I was going to say his worst nightmare is just reality. His life.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor Snape. I feel bad for him in some sense, but also he's still terrible.
I feel less bad for him in these books for some reason. I think they kind of ease off a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much for listening. We're going to finish the book next time, and it might be a rapid fire episode to get through all the chapters. Well, there's some chapters we really need to talk about and some other ones that we don't. But it should be a thrilling discussion. Harry's conversation with Dumbledore, I will force that to be discussed at length. So because it's one of the I think it's one of my favorite chapters in Harry Potter. It's a lot of exposition, so I see why I was cut from the movies at the same time. But until next time, we'll see you next week. Mischief managed.